Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to explore a really powerful way of understanding yourself, one that suggests, what if you are born with a unique psychological map? We're going to look at how this personal blueprint can help you navigate those hidden patterns that, shape your entire life.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Have you ever felt kind of stuck? Like you're repeating the same old scenarios in relationships, at work, or just in life? You keep asking yourself, why does this always happen to me? Where do these deep, often unconscious patterns actually come from?
You know, the brilliant psychologist Carl Jung had this incredible metaphor for this. He said, our true core self is often hidden, kind of like the root system of a plant. The parts you see, the leaves, the flowers, they might change, they might come and go. But that rhizome, that deep, tangled root network underground, that remains. It's the core of who we are, and it's always shaping the person we see in the mirror.
And that leads us to this really fascinating idea. What if you were born with a psychological blueprint, a kind of map that outlines your natural patterns, your core motivations, and even your greatest potential for growth?
Now, this is a really important distinction. This approach isn't about telling your fortune or predicting the future. No way. It's about understanding your inner world, your personal psychological landscape. The whole point is to give you more choices, so you can start acting with intention instead of just, reacting to whatever life throws at you.
So, a good way to think about your birth chart is that it's not some fixed destiny. It's more like an initial framework. It's a set of inborn assumptions and expectations about life that are totally uniquely yours. It's the starting point, the raw material you're given to work with. But here's the thing, that blueprint is just the beginning. Think of your early life experiences as the construction crew. They show up to the site with that blueprint and they start building, turning that abstract plan into your actual three-dimensional reality. And this is so crucial because it means the way you see the world today is profoundly shaped by how that blueprint got built out when you were a kid. Your childhood environment adds the flesh and substance to those skeletal expectations, and it reinforces the patterns and beliefs we end up carrying with us, a lot of the time without even realizing it. Developmental psychologists have actually mapped out these key stages in childhood where we form our core beliefs. So for example, in the first year or two, we learn a fundamental lesson. Is the world a safe place that I can trust? A little later, we grapple with autonomy. I can do it myself. Then we test our own initiative. Every one of these phases is a critical building block in our personality. Let's just zoom in on one of those stages to see how it works. That powerful drive for autonomy, to be our own person. Now, for little kids, attempts to do things for themselves are met with encouragement. It builds this healthy sense of independence. But if those same attempts are met with criticism or too much control, that same drive can curdle into these lasting feelings of shame and doubt about their ability to actually be effective in the world. Okay, but this is where it gets really, really empowering. Just because the foundation was laid a certain way doesn't mean you're stuck with it forever. The moment you understand your blueprint, you can consciously choose to renovate. You get to become the architect of your own reality. I absolutely love this quote from Goethe. It basically suggests that our perceived limitations, the most challenging, the most difficult parts of our blueprint, those are often the very places where our greatest strengths are waiting to be discovered. It's by consciously working on those tough spots that we truly become masters of our own lives.
So how do you actually do this? Well, the path to transformation kind of breaks down into 3 key steps. First, you have to stop sleepwalking through the pattern and really feel it, experience it consciously. Second, you start to understand the universal themes at play, the archetypes, like the warrior or the nurturer, that are part of your inner story. And third, once you have that awareness, you can start to actively rewrite that inner script, that core belief that's been running the show.
And check this out. This is a perfect illustration of that change. So let's take a challenging astrological pattern, Mars square Saturn. Just think of Mars as your gas pedal, your drive, and Saturn as the brakes or limitation. When they're in conflict, the old belief might be, my will isn't effective, I can never get anywhere. It just leads to frustration. But you don't erase the pattern. By working with it, you can transform that belief into something like, okay, if I go slow and am persistent, I can get there. You're just finding a more creative, more constructive way to use the exact same energies. So, what's the big picture here for you? Well, it offers this really profound, really practical shift in perspective. It moves you from being a passive recipient of your fate to being an active creator of your life. And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. It's only the things we're unconscious of that have power over us. By making these patterns conscious, by dragging them out of the shadows and into the light, we take our power back. They stop running our lives on autopilot from behind the curtain. Awareness, really, is the first and most critical step to freedom.
All right, so let's just wrap up with the big takeaways here. First, please remember, your birth chart is a dynamic map to help you know yourself. It is not a fixed fate. Second, your childhood gave real shape and substance to those inborn patterns. Third, and this one's so empowering, your challenges, your so-called flaws, are not things to be ashamed of. They are literally signposts pointing to your greatest opportunities for growth. And finally, putting it all together, you can consciously work with your patterns to create totally new outcomes.
And I want to leave you with this one last thought. It's a bit of a mind bender. Now, it doesn't mean you can go back and change the past. Of course not. But by consciously nurturing and understanding your inner self right now, by giving yourself what you might have needed back then, you can create a whole new alternative track in your mind. You can heal old wounds, and you can open up entirely new, more fulfilling possibilities for your future.